Salve a tutti amici di Comics Reporter e Fumetto Mania. Oggi abbiamo una nuova puntata della nostra miniserie Comic Arts Collectors. Il nostro ospite di oggi è l'americano newyorkese Rich Cirillo. Good morning, Rich. Welcome.
Good morning. Ciao.
Okay. Ciao, buongiorno. Allora, cominciamo. Rick è un collezionista americano da molti anni, con una grande collezione. Oggi parleremo con lui appunto della sua passione. Cominciamo con la prima domanda. La prima domanda è: qual è stata la prima arte originale che hai comprato? Racconta. So, what was the first original art you bought?
The first original art I got was a convention sketch back in 1986. I went to a local comic convention, and they had Bill Willingham there, who was the artist of the Elementals for Comico Comics at the time. And I had no idea what original art was, sketches, published. I mean, I was a comic book collector since I was 5 years old, but I never dabbled in original art. So that was my first exposure to that. And at the time, they were charging, I don't know, maybe $20 for a sketch. And it blew my mind because I always wanted to be an artist. I always wanted to be a comic book artist. So when I saw him draw it, I was like, you know, very inquisitive as far as what pencils do you use, what paper do you use, type thing. I was very interested in the process. And I got a couple of convention sketches over the next couple of years, but I didn't get into the published art until about 1999, where I came across it on one of the online sites. And that opened up a whole new world of going down a rabbit hole.
La seconda domanda, Rich, è un pezzo tra i tanti della tua collezione, un pezzo al quale sei particolarmente legato e perché? So che è una domanda difficile.
Okay, the next question is, what is the piece that you own that you appreciate the most and why? And I know it's hard to answer, but I don't know if you have one of your favorites.
Yeah, I mean, artwork is kind of like children. It's very hard to pick a favorite. But one that I love a lot is an Alex Ross painting of Battle of the Planets. It was one of my favorite cartoons as a child. And I just love Alex Ross's paintings in general. And when I had the opportunity to buy it, I jumped on it. Would you like to see a picture of it?
Yes, please.
Vediamo. Wow. Questo è un dipinto di Alex Ross tratto dalla battaglia, in Italian, Battaglia dei Pianeti. Battle of the Planets. Ok, grazie.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Okay.
You're very welcome.
Allora, continuiamo con la terza domanda questa volta. La terza domanda riguarda qual è stato uno dei pezzi più difficili, più arduo da ottenere, che ti è costato maggiore sforzo. Raccontaci, Rich, per favore.
And the third question is, what has been the most challenging or difficult original art to get?
Again, it's very hard to narrow down because I collect so many different artists. I mean, sometimes it's limiting by your budget, you know, how much you have to spend, because I love a lot of art from the Bronze Age when I grew up in the 1970s and 80s. But a lot of the artists I collect, nowadays, they're getting out of my price range. Artists like Frank Miller, John Byrne, George Perez, Neil Adams, you know, the list goes on and on. So you always try to keep your eyes open as far as pieces you can find at an affordable rate. And also, too, people are willing to trade with you. So if you don't have the money available, sometimes you have a piece in your collection that the owner might be interested in trading for. With me, one of the focuses of my collection has been Michael Golden. I love his art a lot. And I've been fortunate to own a lot of his pieces over the years, from his Doctor Strange issue, number 55, Star Wars number 38, Avengers Annual number 10. And those pages in particular now are in, you know, starting at 10,000 or more US dollars. So it's not readily available. It's stuff I would love to own, but like I said, you try to catch a bargain or a deal where you can. Would you guys like to see one Michael Golden piece that I have?
Yes.
This is actually the color guide for his famous poster, the Mary Marvel marching confusion. And if the original artwork ever popped up online, it would probably go for over $100,000, which, you know, the average person's not going to be able to afford. So a couple of years ago, the color guide that he hand colored came up for auction. It's basically like a Xerox of the line work, and he hand colored it, and I jumped on that, and I'll show it to you right now. It's a very large piece.
Wow, it's amazing.
I know it's a little difficult to see on the screen, but the cool thing about it is, one, Michael Golden hand colored it himself, and two, back then in the 1980s, they used to put numbers for each of the colors. So you have all the numbers written on there, which is a cool little, you know, production behind the scenes thing about it.
Allora, Rich, tu sicuramente conosci tantissimi disegnatori, nella tua collezione i nomi presenti sono quelli di Alex Ross, di Michael Golden, di Neil Adams, di John Byrne. Ma qual è un disegnatore che avresti voluto conoscere tra i tanti, ma non hai avuto la possibilità attualmente?
Okay, so we know that you may know most or a lot of artists like John Byrne, Alex Ross, etc. But is there any, or is there a comic book or comic artist that you would like to meet that you have not had the possibility to do it?
Well, to answer your question, a few of the artists that I would love to meet are unfortunately no longer with us. Jack Kirby, Gil Kane, John Buscema. I started going to conventions back in the 1980s when I was a teenager. My brother-in-law, who was older than me, used to take me to the shows. And then I didn't go for many years. And the whole 1990s, I didn't go to any conventions. And during that time, Jack Kirby passed away, John Buscema, Gil Kane. And when I started going back to conventions around 2002, it was a point of mine to meet these heroes that I loved, you know, their artwork growing up. So some of the first people that I went to see were John Romita Sr., genecolan, you know, Joe Sinnott, people that I had wanted to meet for years. As far as like people that are still with us nowadays that I'd still like to meet, last year I finally got to meet Alex Ross. That was a big want on my checklist. Other than that, I say I've met most of the people that I've wanted to meet over the years. Some of them I've become friends with over the years, you know, seeing them at multiple shows. Other than that, off the top of my head, I don't think of anyone that I still haven't met that I'm still able to meet, but who knows? There's always somebody new.
Ok, perfetto. Allora, Rich, adesso è il momento di far vedere qualcosa ai nostri telespettatori, al nostro pubblico. Hai qualcosa che possiamo vedere adesso qui con te?
Was there something that you wanted me to show now?
Yes.
Which artist? Any in particular?
Any artist.
Okay.
Sounds good. Let's start off with genecolan.
Wow, fantastic.
So the first time that I met Gene back in 2006 at the New York Comic Con, the first one, I was fortunate to get on his sketch list. And in addition to being a terrific artist, he was an amazing person. Also recently, I don't know if you guys have seen these online. This was from the last Captain America story that genecolan had drawn. And I was showing them to Neil Adams up at his studio, and Neil expressed the desire to ink some of them on separate boards. So if you look online, you'll be able to see those. Another favorite artist of mine is alandavis. This is a Batman pinup that he did. Alan doesn't do a lot of shows in the US. He's over in England. But when he comes to the US, he usually brings pre-drawn commissions with him. Here's an Ant-Man that he did as well. This was originally done in pencil when I bought it, and his inker, Mark Farmer, was there as well. And I asked Mark if he could ink it for me. So he took it home to England and then shipped it back to me. Here's a cover that they did together. An Avengers cover. Here's a Thanos cover. As you can see, I'm a big fan of alandavis. Inhumans. I just got recently in a trade with another collector. And a really nice Spider-Man pinup. This was done for a Marvel calendar. Beautiful piece. Gil Kane. When I started collecting comic books as a young kid, Gil Kane was doing a lot of covers, a lot of interiors. This was from one of my first comic books, Marvel Team Up number 13 with Spider-Man and Captain America. So I've kind of been on a mission for like the last 20 years of trying to find any pages from this comic. And again, over the years, the prices keep going up. When I first started collecting pages from this book, I think they were going for around $300. And the most recent one I picked up at auction went for about $3,000. So that's how much the price has jumped in about 20 years. Here's a sketch by Brian Bolland. I'm a big Captain America collector, so I think that's the first time Bolland may have ever drawn him. A huge George Perez fan. Is Ultron, a commission he did for me about 20 years ago. I've got some sketches by Michael Golden. There's a Man-Thing that he's done for me in recent years. Here's a comedian from Watchmen. And a Baron Karza from Micronauts. One of my favorite books as a kid. Here's the first sketch I was telling you about by Bill Willingham. It's a villain called Ratman from The Elementals. So this was the first sketch I ever got back in 1986. I know it's hard to see because it's pencil. Let's see what else. Have you guys seen my Joe Jusko paintings in my gallery? He did for the corner boxes.
Wow.
Submariner. These are all the original paintings. The Vision from the Avengers. And last but not least, Doctor Strange. So these are some amazing paintings that Joe Jusko did. I have another Alex Ross painting. Godzilla. I think this is the only time Alex ever did a Godzilla cover. And again, it really depends on timing of everything. A friend of mine was selling that, and we tried to work out a deal for like a year till we finally were able to figure it out. I'm going to show you a very obscure cover back in 1975, there was a comic book company called Atlas. They didn't last for many years. But as a kid, I bought one of the comics called Tiger Man, and the cover was drawn by Frank Thorne. I looked for this cover for over 20 years until finally somebody contacted me through my gallery and offered it to me. So like I said, it's a very obscure comic, but to me, it held so much nostalgia because as a young kid, you know, it just like blew my mind, you know, how amazing it was. Also wanted to show you guys, John Byrne does commissions at home. So I asked him to do a commission of the Avengers for me. That's a large piece. So basically, when John drew this for me, it was supposed to be 2 covers combined into 1 page. It was easier for John to draw it onto 1 piece of paper. And then he did this one that connects to it as well. So you got all the original Avengers on there. Thor, Iron Man, Hulk. I'll zoom back a little bit, see if you can see it there. And the cool thing about this is the 2 pieces connect. So it's basically like 4 covers connecting into 1. I just need to find wall space for it. Other than that, you were asking me about Frank Frazetta. So I've had a couple of pieces by Frazetta over the years. The only thing I still have left, it's kind of interesting, it's actually one of Frank's sketchbooks. So this is an actual notebook that kids use in school, and it has sketches by Frazetta in there. I mean, they're little tiny sketches, but it's very cool. I mean, here's a sketch Frazetta did of his house. There's some prelims in here. Here's like a gorilla sketch in there. You know, just amazing to like hold in your hands, you know, that a master like Frank Frazetta was drawing on this thing. Unfortunately, over the years, people like cut apart these books to sell the pages individually. But there's some cool little pieces that came with it. Is another sketch. They're all like little thumbnails he did. But again, you know, holding something in your hands by the master, it's just like an amazing feeling. Let's see. There's a Michael Golden piece. This is done in ballpoint pen. This is from 1982. And a Bucky O'Hare commission he did for somebody at a convention back in the 80s. Another one of my favorites, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. Even though most of his career has been at DC Comics, every time I see Jose at a convention, I ask him to draw a Marvel character for me. Are you guys familiar with Mark Brooks that draws for Marvel Comics currently? He's one of the more recent artists, I'd say, in the last 10, 15 years.
Yes.
This was a Battle of the Planets he did for me last year at a convention. And this was a Black Panther that he did when the movie came out. It's a Neil Adams piece I got recently, of Galactus. Here's a color piece by Neil Adams. And Neil is going to be working on a Fantastic Four miniseries coming up this year. So he was selling a prelim for a cover that's not going to be published. Yeah, I know, right? I had the same reaction. So Neil has auctions on Facebook every Tuesday and Friday. at 7 p.m. So he offered it on there, and I know when he sells the Fantastic Four pages, they're going to be pricey. So I was like, this is my best shot at getting a Fantastic Four piece from him, and I won it. And here's the cover. I just picked this up this week. But beautiful piece. And here's actually the prelim to it as well. Neil likes to break it down like on a smaller piece of paper at first, and then he goes in on the larger piece. Adam Hughes. This is Mantis from the Avengers. He drew for me about 10 years ago. Scarlet from G.I. Joe. This was a pinup he did in one of the books. I think this is from like 1990. And I met Adam years ago, back in 1989. And this was the first sketch he ever did for me, Captain America. And when I asked him to draw this for me, he said, this is the first time I ever drew Cap at a convention. So I said, can you write that on there? He looked at me like I was crazy, but he obliged. Arthur Adams. This is a Captain Marvel unused cover. When I bought it, it was just like a loose prelim, and I asked Arthur at a convention if he could finish it for me. Steve Rude, Space Ghost. This is from 1987, the one-shot book he did for Comico. These are painted by Ken Stacy. Beautiful artwork. Here's a John Byrne cover from the Justice Machine. This was like a magazine type comic that came out in 1982 by an independent company called Noble. It was like magazine size. Again, had a lot of nostalgia for me. And trying to get a John Byrne cover nowadays is like next to impossible. An early John Byrne color sketch and an early Green Lantern sketch. These were from his sketchbook. I think that's most of the stuff for now.
Siamo rimasti senza parole, siamo veramente, la tua collezione è veramente fantastica e vederla da vicino, diciamo, è un'emozione veramente grandissima per noi. Ti ringraziamo da parte di Comics Reporter e Fumettomania per la tua disponibilità, per il tuo tempo. Per oggi le domande le abbiamo terminate. Grazie mille per aver condiviso con noi la tua collezione, veramente fantastica. Siamo rimasti senza parole. Congratulazioni, grazie.
Yes, we're speechless of all the art you showed to us. It's amazing. We admire and we are big fans of all the artists, of all the pieces you own. Thank you very much for letting us do this interview with you and for you to show all your work, all the work you own. And it's very appreciated. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for this opportunity to show it to you. And I hope you enjoyed it as much as I love these pieces.
Grazie Rich. Ciao, grazie.
All right, ciao.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.